Chapter 17, High Stakes, Aces Wild. With a package arriving by messenger at 9:15 on Thursday morning, Kelly Collins double-checked the address label. Kelly had been Tom Morton's secretary for the past 6 years as he worked his way up through the ranks at Shipley Publishing Company. Whenever he had jumped a rung on the ladder, Kelly had jumped with him. And now Tom was the president and publisher of Shipley Junior Books, and Kelly was his executive assistant. Mr. Morton didn't usually get packages from agents, but this one was clearly addressed to him, so Kelly opened it. He wouldn't be in the office until 1 today, so she had plenty of time to get his correspondence and his afternoon appointments organized. She started to read the cover letter from the agent, and when she got to the name Lithia Springfield, she stiffened, her eyes narrowed, and her mouth formed an involuntary frown. Kelly had been watching Lithia Springfield carefully for the past 2 years. Every time Lithia and the other 2 editors-in-chief came to a meeting on the 16th floor, Kelly had the feeling that Lithia was measuring the windows in Tom Norton's office for curtains, her curtains. Kelly finished reading the letter and then looked at the manuscript. Good title, she thought. Kelly flipped the title page over and began reading. After 3 pages, she was hooked. She read the book off and on all morning and then finished it over the noon hour. And when she got back from lunch, Kelly put the letter and the manuscript at the top of the stack and Mr. Morton's in the box. At 1:15 on Thursday afternoon, Tom Morton called to Kelly through the open door. Kelly, would you take this down to 14 and give it to Lithia? She really ought to handle this herself. When Kelly walked in, he was holding out the manuscript and the letter from the agent. Kelly took the manuscript from him, and Tom looked down at the next item on the desk. But Kelly didn't leave, and when he noticed, Tom looked up again and said something else. Kelly shifted her weight from one foot to the other, then plunged in. Holding up the letter, she said, Mr. Morton, I know this situation is sort of a can of worms, but did you look at the story? It's a great book. I read the whole thing over my lunch hour. I think it might be worth taking a look at, if you don't mind my saying so. Tom Norton never minded Kelly saying what's on her mind. She'd kept him from making at least a dozen mistakes over the years. Several mistakes could have delayed his promotions, and 1 or 2 that could have cost him his job. She had the instincts of a mother lion, and Tom was glad to have her looking out for him. With a smile, he pushed the papers on his desk to one side, took the manuscript back from her, and began reading. Kelly turned and left his office, pulling the door shut behind him. 10 minutes later, Tom Norton buzzed Kelly on the speakerphone. Yes, Mr. Morton? Kelly, hold my phone calls for an hour or so, would you? I'd like to finish reading this manuscript. Kelly Collins smiled at her phone and said, will do. At precisely 3:46 on Thursday afternoon, Lithia Springfield and Hannah Nelson each received an email message, and the little mail delivery chimed bogged on both of their computers. Lithia ignored the chime because she was on the phone, but Hannah clicked on her email and read the message right away. From Tom Morton to Lithia Springfield. BCC Hannah Nelson, The Cheater Manuscript. Lithia, it's odd for an agent to send anything directly to me these days, so I took note when someone named ZZ Reisman messaged me a manuscript this morning. It's called The Cheater, and from the cover letter I gather you've seen it too. I started reading it, couldn't stop, made me remember all those years I spent as an editor. I hate to step in, but it's clear that unless we put Hannah on this project, we'll lose the book, and frankly, we can't afford to. I smell a hit here, and if we have to let a headstrong author have her own way in order to keep this book, then I say we let her. I've called Susan Yao in marketing and asked her to save a half page for this in the summer catalog. I know a June publish date is pushing it, but this one could build nicely and be strong right into the fall. Have Hannah handle the deal and the editing, and I'd like to keep me from me in the loop on this. Susan will call her in a day or so for catalog information. Thanks, Tom. As Hannah read the email, her throat tightened up. Her heart raced and she felt as if she couldn't breathe. Hannah knew this feeling. It was fear. Looking at the heading of the email again, she saw her copy was a BCC, a blind copy. That meant Tom Morton had sent Hannah a copy of this message to Letha, and Letha didn't know about the copy. Hannah took deep breaths to try to clear her head. She thought, doesn't Tom know what an impossible situation this puts me in? Doesn't he know it already is hard enough to work for Letha? Nervously, Hannah jumped up from her chair. Standing on her tiptoes in the doorway, she peeked over the top of the cubicle dividers to look across at Letha's office. Letha was there, talking on the phone, smiling and nodding. Hannah thought she must not have read it yet. Hannah sat down again and looked at the email still open on her computer screen. She tried to think calmly, but she couldn't. The message was like a time bomb in Letha's computer, ticking away. Any moment now, Letha would click in to open it, and boom. Hannah shook her head. She had to admire this ZZ Reisman. Sending the manuscript directly to Tom Morton was a gutsy thing to do. She thought this woman was incredibly brave, or else she was incredibly stupid. Hi. Hannah almost jumped out of her shoes. She wheeled around. Oh, it's you, Natalie. Oh, you surprised me. Instantly, Hannah turned around and grabbed her purse from the bottom drawer of her desk. She pulled out $2 and said, I think you'd better go up to the lunchroom and study this afternoon, honey. Here's some snack money. Natalie looked at her mom. She said, Are you okay, Mom? You look kind of funny. Hannah laughed nervously. Just a lot going on today, that's all. Now you run along and stay put. I'll come up here and get you on my way out. Okay? Sure, Mom. See you later. Letha Springfield stomped off the elevator onto the 16th floor. It was 6 minutes after 4 o'clock. 5 minutes earlier, Letha had read her email from Tom Norton. She glared at the receptionist, who scrambled to push the security button just as Letha reached the door to the executive offices. Striding on, Letha approached Tom Morton's office. She had a piece of paper in her hand as she went marching right past Kelly Collins into Tom Morton's office. She waved it and said, Mr. Morton is expecting me. The office door slammed shut behind her. Kelly kept tapping away at her keyboard. A nearly invisible smile trickled the corners of her mouth. She wished she could be a fly on the wall in her boss's office. At 4:45, Hannah was working on a letter to one of her authors. She heard a rustle of papers behind her. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up. Hannah tensed, and then she turned her chair to face the doorway. It was Letha. Here, Letha's voice sounded like a shovel plunging into a pile of gravel. She handed Hannah a manuscript. Hannah didn't have to look to know what it was, but she did. Then she did her best to look surprised. Letha said, I've decided you shall handle this one. After all, we don't want our sensitive little Miss Author to get her tummy all tied up in knots now, do we? So I want you to take it from here. Hannah tried to keep the right mixture of surprise, confusion, and obedience, acceptance in her voice and gestures. She said, well, I'll be glad to. Are you sure you want me to? Coldly, evenly, Letha said, very sure. And with that, she turned and walked briskly back towards her office. Hannah took 3 or 4 deep breaths. She thought, if I ever get fired from here, I'll go train tigers for Ringling Brothers. It'll feel like a vacation. When her mom came to get her in the snack room, Natalie thought her mom's face looked strange. She seemed to be in a big hurry, too. She was silent in the elevator, and once on the ground floor, she took Natalie's hand and practically dragged her across the lobby, and then squeezed it into the same compartment of the revolving door with her. Once they were out of the building and down the block near where they caught their cab, her mom started to laugh and swing Natalie's arm back and forth, almost giddy. Natalie said, What's all this about? Hannah stopped to catch her breath, and at the same time held up her hand to flag a vacant cab. Then she giggled and said, You'll never believe what happened at work today. But her mom was wrong. Natalie believed every word.